Apparently, line play is optional for Syracuse.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, on today's show, it's a post-game reaction. What are the differences between a regular podcast and a post-game reaction show? Well, in a post-game reaction show, you're going to get my raw emotion from the game, okay? We do a podcast throughout the week. We maybe go a little bit further in depth about the teams, right? But in post-game reaction show, you get my raw emotion right after a game ends. Syracuse football loses this one to Boston College on the road, 37-31, in a game where I think Syracuse football maybe should have won this one, but you know what? They didn't deserve to win. And I want to credit Boston College before I get into this whole podcast, because Boston College had a game plan. They were going to run the ball right down Syracuse's throat. And guess what? They did exactly that. So credit to Boston College. They were the better team today. They deserve to win 37-31 over Syracuse this afternoon. We're breaking it all down here on today's post-game reaction show. Before we get to all that, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So where do you think I'm going to go with this, right? There were some downs, there were some ups, and then eventually Syracuse loses. And it sucks when Syracuse loses, right? Most of you guys who tune into this show are Syracuse fans. It sucks, right? Never want to see them lose. The reason why Syracuse lost this game was their line play on both sides. Both sides. I'm going to use a word that I don't want to throw around. I don't throw it around lightly. Soft. That's right. Soft. That was pathetic. Offensive line, defensive line. That was pathetic. It just wasn't not good enough. Not good enough. You want some numbers? You want some numbers? Let's give you some numbers. Boston College had 378 total yards in this game. Okay, it's a lot. Boston College had 65 pass yards. Oh, it's pretty good, right? They only completed 7 passes in the game. They were 7 of 13. Boston College as a team had 313 rushing yards. 313. Soft. You can't stop the run. I don't throw around that word lightly. I don't. But that's the deal. That's what it was. That's what we witnessed. My goodness, Kyle Robichaux and Jordan McDonald. I mean, credit to them, right? Kyle Robichaux had 28 carries, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns. McDonald had 15 carries, 133 yards, 1 touchdown for Boston College. Right? Credit to them. I didn't know Boston College had the reincarnation of Jim Brown and Ernie Davis in the backfield, but apparently they did. Because this defensive line got no push. And by the way, I'm not exonerating the linebackers. I'm not exonerating the defensive backs either, because it's not like they could tackle either. You can't stop the run. Boston College not only had 313 rush yards in the game, their average yards per rush, 6.1. That means all they had to do on average was hand the ball off twice on a drive or per 4 downs, and they would get a first down, right? So it's 1st and 10. You hand the ball off, it's 2nd and 4. You hand the ball off again, it's 1st and 10 again. That's how bad it was. They could not stop the run. And this offense for Syracuse, it held them in it. They were in the game. We'll get to later about starting on time because I got something for them too, because they can't start on time right now. But this defensive line, these linebackers, these safeties, these corners, I don't care who it was. I'm not going to call out anyone by name because I don't have to call out anyone by name. Take your pick. Pathetic on the defensive front. Pathetic. 313 yards for Boston College. Sorry. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Let's talk about the offensive line for Syracuse football because it wasn't much better. I know Boston College has good players, right? They got good players. They got a really stud edge rusher, right? He's one of the leaders in sacks in the ACC as a Raku, right? He's a good player. He had 2 sacks in this one. You know that good players are going to make big-time plays. I believe he had the strip sack on Kyle McCord that led to a safety. You can at least try. You can try, right? How many sacks did Boston College have in this one? They had 4. It felt like 10. Wasn't good enough. That's why you lost. It was a close game. You lost 37-31 because your 2 lines decided that they took the game off. It was optional to play. Soft. Yeah, I'm hammering them. I'm hammering the lines. They got bullied all game long. It was a joke. It was a joke. Luckily, though, I'm in a little bit of a festive mood. So I came with some gifts. I came with some props because maybe we could solve the problem together. Maybe we can solve it together. I don't know what it is, but we got to figure out something. So they need to eat more, maybe. They need to get stronger. They need to get tougher. They need to get more physical. Let's see if this green screen will cooperate with me. If it doesn't, bear with me. I brought with me a New York strip steak. Oh, look at that. Green screen is kind of cooperating, but you can kind of see it. New York strip steak, 2.5 servings per container, or serving size of 4 ounces. It's got 24 grams of protein, but that's not even that's just one serving. There's multiple servings in this. It's a lot of protein. They need some protein, right? Maybe red meat is not what you want. Maybe you're a little bit of a picky eater. That's okay. Come bearing gifts too. I got organic ground chicken. Let's see if the green screen cooperates. No, kind of. You can kind of see it, right? Forgive me with the green screen, but organic ground chicken. 22 grams of protein. 4 servings per container. So that's 88 grams total of protein here. You need to get stronger. You need to get tougher. So I got some steak. I got some ground chicken. And you need some pasta too. So I got some pasta as well. Let's see if the green screen cooperates. Not even close. Doesn't matter. I got some pasta. I got some steak. I got some chicken. I'll cook. Fine. But you need to get stronger. You need to get tougher. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm not trying to call out the nutritionists over at Syracuse. It's not their fault. But they need to get stronger and they need to get tougher because it was absolutely shameful. Now, coming up, I got some more gifts. Don't worry. I got some more gifts because Syracuse football, for the 3rd consecutive game, said, you know what? I know kickoff's at 12, but let's start the game at 1, actually. So coming up, we'll talk about the slow start once again for Syracuse football. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. And in a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I apologize from last segment because I forgot to read out one more stat for you all about the offensive line play because it was not very good. I mentioned the amount of sacks that Boston College had and felt like they only had 4, but it felt like 10. Syracuse football as a team had 39 rush yards, but I get it. Sometimes you lose yards on a sack rushing. LeQuint Allen had 16 carries for 50 yards, an average of 3.1 yards per carry. They can't run the ball, and they can't stop the run. Hence why they lost 37-31 to Boston College this afternoon. Once again, I'm Jackson Holzer, and this is Locked On Syracuse, and you're getting a raw post-game reaction to this game. So, talked about the line play being atrocious on both sides. Let's talk about this now. This is now 3 consecutive games where Syracuse football is like, let's ignore the kickoff time and let's just try to start playing a little bit later. What do I mean by that? They keep putting themselves in positions to lose at the start of games. A few weeks ago against Pitt, they fall behind early, and we saw that continue throughout the game. It was a bad game. Give them a mulligan. Fine. Last week, they have a crazy comeback against Virginia Tech. They're down 21-3 in the third quarter, and they managed to win that game. And I was thrilled. They won, right? But I think we can all acknowledge that when you fall behind 21-3 in a game, when you fall behind multiple scores, it's not advantageous to winning, right? It's harder to play from behind than it is ahead. Syracuse football in this game, for the third straight week, did not start on time. The offense in the first quarter and a half couldn't get anything going. I don't know what it is. Because the first few plays on offense, it's really like the first series or two, they're scripted. You know what you're going to run. You're analyzing Boston College throughout the week. You know what you're going to do. And for whatever reason, they can't get anything going. That's why they fell behind 14-0. Boston College was making its own mistakes, right? They had a special teams. They had multiple special teams blunders. First quarter, they have a missed 29-yard field goal. They had a punt that went 25 yards, but the punter just shanked it. He dropped the snap, and it rolled 25 yards. It was a terrible punt. And Syracuse just couldn't take advantage early on. And they fell behind 14-0 as a result. And again, we can all agree, when you fall behind 14-0, yeah, we've seen teams come back from that deficit. I mean, Syracuse has come from behind by multiple scores. We saw it literally last week. It can be done, but it's not advantageous to winning. You need to start on time, and this is the third straight game where Syracuse football has not started at the kickoff time. The kickoff for this game was at 12 o'clock. I think officially it ended up being around 12:10. But Syracuse didn't start playing until 1:15, 1:20. And credit to them, they eventually got a lead. They got up 21-14, and it only lasted 2 minutes because, again, they can't stop the run. If you got ahead in this game, if you went up ahead 14-0, Boston College would have been probably forced to throw more than they wanted to. And guess what? They couldn't throw anyway. So they would have won. You got to take advantage of missed opportunities. When you're given an opportunity early in the game, you got to take advantage. Missed 29-yard field goal from Boston College. A shanked punt that goes 25 yards. How about at the end of the first half, you get a gift of an interception because Thomas Castellanos, he still stinks. He still sucks. I don't want to hear it. He's awful. He can't throw. Jaden Bellamy gets a pick. You're near midfield at the end of the first half, and you can't convert. So what do we do to solve the problem of starting on time? Because it's kind of a recent problem, right? I mean, they started well against NC State. They started well against UNLV. They started well against Holy Cross. Started well against Georgia Tech. I mean, obviously, we know what happened against Stanford and Ohio. They didn't start well, but we'll give them a pass. It's the first game of the season. So what do you do? Well, first of all, let's see if the green screen will cooperate with me again. The first thing I have is a watch. Oh, look at that. Green screen kind of did cooperate here. A watch. A watch tells time. That's what a watch does. You can also use a phone, an iPad, a laptop. You need to start on time. So maybe you need to watch. Maybe they forgot to set their clocks, right? The clock goes back an hour. Recently, right? It went back an hour. So maybe they were on 11 a.m. instead of 12 o'clock. And so that's why. All right, fine. Also, the last two games have been noon games. Ooh, noon games. What does that mean? Well, your pregame meal is going to be a nutritious breakfast. You need something, right? I don't know. You need some energy. We need some energy, right? At the beginning of games. Got some fancy coffee, Lavazza, right? Some fancy coffee for you all because you need to wake up. Got some eggs. We'll see if the green screen cooperates. Organic eggs, too. They're nice. Let's see. Not even close, but they're there. Trust me. And I got Greek yogurt as well, but why bother? I mean, I got to try to have fun with this because that was, I wouldn't say it was shameful. I've seen a lot worse. I mean, the Stanford game was really bad. The Pitt game was so bad that I honestly was just disappointed. And in this game, I don't think Syracuse played a terrible game. I really don't. I genuinely don't think they played terrible. But there were a couple of reasons why they ended up losing 37-31 to Boston College. Number one, the trenches stunk. Both sides. We'll maybe talk about later on in the podcast going forward about what they can do about this. But I think bottom line is that I don't know if there's a solution this season, and that for next year, that needs to be a priority in the portal. You need to just get defensive linemen. You need to get offensive linemen. Good ones. Take your pick. Right? And starting on time. That's another reason why you lost. Those are the two reasons why you lost the game. Did Kyle McCord have an interception? No. I mean, he did have one turnover, but it was a sack fumble. LeQuint Allen had a fumble in this game. That was his first collegiate fumble, I believe. He never fumbles until this game. And even, you still had a chance to win. I mean, they had an onside kick at the end. They recovered it, but they blocked too early, apparently. I've never seen that called, but it was a penalty. I don't even think the guy who did it meant to do it, but it was a penalty. I'm not going to kill the refs. I don't think the refs are the reason why we lost. Nope. I've just never seen that called, but you know what? It was a penalty. So I'm not going to complain about the officials calling something that is a penalty. They ran out of miracles. We've seen them come back before, and they didn't come back this one. We've seen them win games where they can't stop the run, and in this one, they couldn't overcome it. You got to credit Boston College because they had a game plan. It was a simple game plan. They were going to run the ball with their two running backs. One of them had nearly 200 yards, and the other one had over 130. I mean, McDonald averaged 8.9 yards per carry, and Robichaux averaged 7.1 yards per carry. Kyle McCord was really good, 31 of 48, 392, 2 touchdowns. He had that fourth down play where it was late in the game. Jackson Meeks was open over the middle of the field, but he wasn't targeting him. I'm not going to blame Kyle McCord, though. And I blame Kyle McCord for games, right? I'm not a Kyle McCord apologist. I killed him for the Pitt game. I thought it was pathetic, his performance. It was really bad. But he's not the reason why they lost. I'm not blaming on LeQuint Allen. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 50 rushing yards only. But you know what? The line wasn't giving him anything. No holes. So the two reasons why Syracuse lost. Number one, the trenches on both sides, awful. No initial push. Too much pressure on McCord. And number two is they didn't start on time. You fall behind 14-0, and you came back, but you know what? Maybe next time don't fall behind 14-0. Get ahead. Play with a lead. So, let's talk about what's next for Syracuse football. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and can be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth, and these generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Syracuse football was a 1.5-point underdog at Boston College. To those that bet Syracuse to cover or win outright, I'm sorry, you're not going to get that $150 bonus if that was your first bet because, well, Syracuse football did not cover and they did not win. It's unfortunate, right? Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So what's next for Syracuse football? Where do we go from here, right? So the Orange are 6-3. I believe now they are 3-3 as well in the conference. You would have liked to see a win here. I'm checking the latest scores from around the ACC, and you know what sucks really more is if Syracuse had won this game, they could have maybe pulled off a miracle and gotten to the conference championship game. Miami lost. They lost at Georgia Tech. The upset happened there. Finally, Miami lost. They'd been playing with fire for so long, finally lost. So I think that's really the stinger here is that the miracle shot is gone. So what do? Well, again, you can't throw in the towel for the season. Can't do that, right? They're a bowl team. They've earned that right. Bowl team for the third consecutive year. I guess that's the silver lining to you is that you can't throw away the season. You got a winnable game at Cal. Then you got UConn at home to get potentially 8 wins if you can beat Cal. And then, of course, Miami to close the season, which apparently they're beatable. So that's what it really is going forward. You can't throw in the towel for the season. This is a first-year head coach, first-year coordinators as well with him. It's not their first time being coordinators, but it's their first time as a staff together. I don't love all the coaching decisions in this game. I think at times they didn't help out the offensive line. They should have stuck an extra blocker there, whether it was a tight end or LeQuint Allen in the backfield, right, to help the offensive line. I think on defense, the 3-3-5 against the run just does not work, evidently. They don't have the personnel to do it. You needed to load up the box a little bit more. That being said, if they didn't load up the box and you don't have anyone back there, I think maybe every single play could have been an 80-yard touchdown. So I don't know if there was really a solution. But going forward, I alluded to this during this post-game show. Going forward, the transfer portal, high school recruiting, signing day is near as well. There are 3 priorities. 3, okay? Number 1, you got to figure out your quarterback. I love Kyle McCord. This is not against him, but here's the reality. This is his last year of eligibility. I'm not saying you got to sit him. Don't sit him. But going forward, and we'll discuss it later on in later episodes, but I figured I have to give it to you now because of the road ahead, right? You got to figure out the game's most important position for next season. Do you want to stick with someone on the roster right now? Do you want to use one of your 2 true freshman recruits you have right now? Do you want to go in the transfer portal and find a quarterback, right? That's priority number 1. You got to figure out the quarterback situation, okay? But that's like a free space. That's a free space. That's like you have a bingo card and you get that free space in the middle, okay? You got to figure out quarterback, bottom line, right? But now we know our number 2 and number 3 priorities are, and it's not 2-3. It's 1-2-2. 1-2-2, okay? Whatever order you want, doesn't matter. Offensive line defensive line. Defensive line, offensive line. See, it doesn't matter. But the bottom line is that that's where you got to go in the portal and hopefully on signing day. You got to get the big fellas, right? You have to. Fadil Diggs, by the way, who was invisible in this one, is still your best defensive lineman, and he's gone. He has no more years of eligibility either. He's gone after this season. Hopefully, Syracuse football can bring in Javion Hilson, a 5-star edge rusher. But he's an edge rusher. He's an edge rusher. As much as of course I want him, but he's an edge rusher. Does he play along the defensive front? He does. But you need to figure out really in the trenches. Think more specifically for the offensive line, you need better tackles and just linemen in general. I'm not impressed with the tackle play, particularly in this game. So that's where our priorities have to be in the offseason, because pretty soon it's going to be the offseason for Syracuse football. Even when you're getting ready for a bowl game, it's effectively the offseason by that point anyway. Again, free space, quarterback. Got to figure that one out. We'll talk a lot about that in future podcasts for Syracuse football. What do we do? What are the options, right? But offensive line and defensive line, offensive line, I don't care. You have to figure that out. You got to get the big fellas up front. Because it's very hard to win games when you're giving up over 300 yards rushing. The fact that Syracuse at one point was leading this game 21-14 in the third quarter is a minor miracle in and of itself. They couldn't stop the run. And Kyle McCord was sacked 4 times. I told you 1,000 times, it might as well have been 10. He was pressured all game long. It's one of the reasons why they lost to Pitt, because Kyle McCord had no time. Again, it was his fault with all the interceptions, but Kyle McCord had no time either. Nobody got a passing grade in that one. The Stanford game, again, offensive line play wasn't very good in that one. Got to get better in the trenches. All right? That's just how it is. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. The sun will shine tomorrow. Hopefully it will shine tomorrow, right? Hopefully it's not a rainy day. That would suck. But they're 6-3. They're 500 in the conference. Hopefully they can bounce back next week at Cal. And then you're looking at an 8-win season. And I think before the year in totality, you would take an 8-win season. You would take it. It's a first-year head coach. It's a good building block going forward. But you know your priorities now in the offseason. That's the silver lining of the loss. You know your priorities. You already knew quarterback was going to be one, but now you know it's the trenches. Running back, wide receivers, tight ends, that's all cool and all. Corners, linebackers, the sexy positions, I don't care. Would I like them? Sure. Guess what? They got some good weapons. Doesn't really matter if you can't stop the run and you don't have an offensive line. All right. So that is it for this post-game reaction show. Syracuse loses 37-31 to Boston College. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On ACC podcast, because Alex Donald and Kenton Gibbs, they keep it real and they bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. I imagine Alex Donald, who's the host of Locked On Canes, is not going to be too thrilled because Miami just lost its first game of the season and might be pissing away its chance of making the college football playoff as we speak. Uh-oh. You can find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. Everyone take care.